On today's show, we head to 40 Second Brew Company in Kingston, take a closer look at the town of Pembroke, hear a different take on spooning for Valentine's Day, get ready for the Rotary Auction, and more of what's happening in our South Shore towns. We're glad you're here. Let's get started. Sometimes when neighbors get together, great ideas are born. We went on the local scene to 40 Second Brew Company in Kingston.
So 40 Second Brewing started out kind of just as a little hobby between neighbors, Paul, and eventually Steve, and we kind of grew it into a tap room situation that we have now, which is great.
Went over to the other co-founder, Matt, and I said, look, we both like beer. I got this idea, why don't we start a brewery? He started looking at it, and we pulled the trigger that day. We bought about $1,500 worth of homebrew equipment, and we started brewing in my garage, much to my wife's chagrin. We were pretty much in there every weekend, either brewing, packaging, or thinking about beer. And then COVID hit, and we just carried that on. We did 400 gallons in the garage during COVID, and that's how we perfected a lot of our recipes we do today.
I came over for a social distance fire pit, during COVID, and had one of their beers, which is now our Driftwood, our amber ale. I was really impressed with the beer, thought it was really good. And that night, through conversation, they needed, a logo and branding and marketing, social media, and as a brewer wearing all the hats, it's challenging. So they had just started out, and I knew those are things they needed. So fast forward, 5 days later, we had a meeting, and we all decided to, add myself and my friend Nia, because he does graphics design, and we came up with a logo, and it kind of took off from there.
We had a couple names originally, and we ended up with 42nd to kind of stay with the Kingston theme, as the 42nd parallel runs right through Kingston, Mass. So we wanted to keep it local.
We knew there was a need in Kingston. There's some really good restaurants, but there isn't much of a nightlife, and being able to open a brewery, and especially downtown where there's not a whole lot going on down here by the post office, we thought it was a good opportunity to provide something that we thought was needed in the town. And this is an older building, late 1800s, early 1900s building. And we partnered with Frame Techs here in Kingston with Mike Norton, and they were kind of our builders on the project. We could have easily just painted and done some simple touch-ups, but we really wanted to expose the original building and what it, some of the beauties of it, and the brick wall to the original tin ceilings. All those things were covered up, and we exposed them. One of our first customers was Orta right down the street. Good friends with Brett, the head chef at Orta. I've been working with him on kind of getting our beer into the marketplace, and we look to do some partnerships with him in the future with some pairings and tap takeovers. Through the walls here, working with A3 and John, we've partnered with him for food, so our customers can actually go on, scan the barcode, and order food to the tap room. They can order pizza, they can order their chicken parm, and then they say delivery, and they'll bring it right through the back door and call out your name. So it's been nice to have a food option. A lot of breweries, they have food trucks and things like that come in to provide that service, and we have it right next door with A3. So that's been a great partnership.
Early on, when Matt and I were bouncing recipes off each other, we were continually harassing Paul Nixon down at Indie Farm. He was really supportive, helped us get all of our grains, to the point where he was kind enough to let us do like a collaboration brew with our first recipe called 3 Sheets to the Wind. He was very instrumental in helping us kind of scale up from home brewing.
Beer's very delicate. It needs a lot of time. Sit 2.5, 3 weeks, up to 2 months, and you just got to be patient with it. The actual brewing process itself, that's the easiest thing we do. It's all the ancillary stuff that nobody sees behind the scenes. All the cleanup, all the kegging, transporting, reporting, that type of thing. So,
What's the favorite beer of yours?
A cold one. They're all kind of like my kids, right? I like them all. It all depends on the day, right? If I'm out just gonna have like 1 or 2, I would say, my favorite's a 3 Sheets to the Wind. That's, double dry hopped IPA, traditional. But if I'm out, if I'm going to barbecue, I'm going to take a Locals Light with me or a Pilsner, Kind of depends on what your day holds.
tough one. I wasn't initially an IPA guy until I met Paul and Matt, which gradually I've become one. So I'd say on the IPA side, I really enjoy our ship-based, which has been distributed locally, so a lot of folks have seen the can and it's been moving pretty well. And then on the other side of the spectrum, I really do like our Amber Ale, our Driftwood. That was actually the beer that enticed me to get into the business, around that social distance fire pit that was, 2 years ago. So those are my two favorite beers.
I think we gotta go with the original IPA via 3 sheets, I think. We brewed it. It's actually the first one we brought to market on a big batch scale. Just a good American IPA. It's not New England, it's not hazy, it's not juicy. Some people equate it to kind of a West Coast style, kind of piney. I don't really get that, but definitely good, just crisp, looks light, and it tastes really good.
The reception from the community has been really well. We're getting people from, obviously, Kingston, locally, that are really enjoying it. They'll come here, have a drink before they go out to dinner, come after dinner. But we're getting folks from, North Plymouth, Duxbury, Pembroke, Halifax. But the reception to the beer, everyone's really enjoying the beer. We have a bunch of repeat customers that are coming in. Everyone really loves the environment.
I've been doing IT for 15 years now. There's not a lot of tactile reciprocation of, hey, this is good or good job. Whereas in this business, it's we can make a beer, someone will come in, and the gratification or at least appreciation is right there. It's visceral, right? I like that. I like making people happy. I like talking to people. That's the part of the business that really, gets the creative juices flowing.
I think we've created a nice culture here down in downtown Kingston. We have a nice establishment where people can come in and relax and enjoy and get to know other people from around the area. I think that will continue. While we are a brewery, I think we've created a nice tap room environment where people can come and just enjoy a pint. So I think that will continue.
It's been 3+ years now to kind of see where, we started in a garage with used home brewing equipment to build it to something where, locals can come in. We've got a lot of support from surrounding communities, a lot of just random people that we don't know. It's funny because your friends and family will tell you your beer's good. They might be lying to you just to make you feel good about it. But the true testament is when you actually open your doors and get people in here, keep them coming back, which we have a lot of repeat customers already. It's really cool to see how it's flourished and just the support of the communities as well. I mean, everybody, they can't believe, that there's a brewery in Kingston and, finally put Kingston on the map and we're hopefully become part of the South Shore Beer Trail and, we'll get a lot of beer enthusiasts and aficionados through the door and I don't know, it's been awesome. Can't complain.
It's almost time for the annual Rotary Auction. Here's more.
Hi, I'm Kathy Baldwin, Vice President of the Rotary Club of Plymouth and this year's auction chairperson. I'm here to share information about the club's 29th annual Plymouth Rotary Auction, featuring a virtual format through Bidding Owl. This year's auction will run from March 1st through March 17th. During that time, you will have access to bid online from your computer, tablet, or even on your cell phone, anytime, day or night. Instead of a live auction show, we will highlight some of Plymouth Rotary's key community partnerships, including our valued sponsors, on the local scene by PAC TV. Last year, our auction had over 535 items, with over 4,400 bids, including collectibles, restaurant and shopping gift cards, professional services, youth camperships, golf outings, and so much more, all generously donated by Plymouth area merchants and businesses. Most importantly, the money we raise through the auction is distributed to various community organizations, nonprofits, and scholarships. For more information, please Google Plymouth MA Rotary Auction to bring you to our Bidding Owl website. Be sure to visit the website frequently, anytime between March 1st and March 17th, and bid. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for joining the Rotary Club of Plymouth in assisting those in need throughout our local communities and promoting local businesses.
The Pembroke Council on Aging's Lunch Bunch invites you for a spot of tea on Friday, February 16th from 12 p.m. to 1:30. Enjoy terrific conversation, English finger sandwiches, and fresh baked scones, all in the pleasant setting of Shelley's Tea Rooms in Plymouth. Shelley's Tea Rooms is located at 51 Court Street in downtown Plymouth, and if you'd like a ride, take the party van, which will leave the center at 11:30 a.m. Sign up at the center to reserve your spot. Don't wait too long, as the event is limited to 15. Flowers, jewelry, chocolates, and spoons? Our next piece focuses on the traditions of our annual celebration of love. Here's Valentine's Day. What's the story?
Deleted.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. Why are you handing me a spoon?
It's a Valentine's Day gift to you. Did you know the Welsh give each other spoons for Valentine's Day? They're called love spoons.
This is a tablespoon.
And I have another fun Valentine's Day fact for you. Did you know that when Valentine's Day became popular in the United States, people used to give each other gloves and spoons? People exchange Valentine cards with coworkers for sure, but can you stir your coffee with one of these? Which I also have for you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day, a day designated to celebrate the ones we love by exchanging candy, flowers, cards, gifts, and love. But have you ever wondered how this all started? What's the story behind Valentine's Day as we know it today? You may have encountered the many variations of the origin stories that surface each year around this time, like the story about Valentine's Day being rooted in a Roman fertility festival called Lupercalia. This ritual occurred each February when Roman priests would run naked through the streets, slapping lucky women with the bloodied hides of sacrificed animals. If you're having a hard time making the connection between this and gifting your favorite lady friend a box of chocolates, you're not alone. But let's continue. In the 5th century, Pope Gelasius outlawed Lupercalia, replacing the pagan festivities with a February 14th celebration of Saint Valentine. How this February holiday morphed from chasing women with dead animal skins to become a celebration of romantic love is linked to English poet Geoffrey Chaucer some 800 years later. At this time, the Catholic Church celebrated every day of the year with at least one saint, and in an era without printed calendars, the Saint's Day is how most people marked time. It just so happens that the day for St. Valentine, February 14th, was also designated the first day of spring in England because it was the beginning of bird mating season. In Chaucer's love poem, The Parliament of Fowls, he connects the pursuit of romantic love with St. Valentine's Day in a few different parts of the poem. Of course, it is birds that are romancing, but hey folks, it's poetry, and we can read between the lines, can't we? Now, many of these origin stories weave together strands of lore and fact, but the actual origin of Valentine's Day is murky. Stories rooting Valentine's Day in an ancient past began to surface in the mid-1800s, when the holiday became popular in the United States as a day dedicated to romantic love and exchanging gifts. At this time, technological advances in printing and communication were creating mass culture and commercialization on a level that didn't exist before in America, and not everyone was happy about it. In this context, the blossoming popularity of Valentine's Day was perceived almost immediately as being an overdone, offensive commodification of love. This skepticism around Valentine's Day, perhaps, led those who stood to capitalize on the popularity of exchanging gifts — we're looking at you and all your friends, Cadbury chocolates — to root the day in something historically meaningful, something that would make it legitimate and hopefully more appealing to the haters. From the mid-1800s to the turn of the century was really when Valentine's Day and all the traditions we associate with it started cropping up, much of it driven by mass culture and consumerism. Around 1850, Esther Holland came up with an assembly line process that allowed her to mass-produce beautiful, intricate Valentine's cards from her home in Worcester, Massachusetts. In the 1860s, Richard Cadbury created what is believed to be the first heart-shaped box of chocolates. In the very early 1900s, the New England Confectionery Company, or NECO, introduced the little conversation hearts we all know and love. In 1913, Hallmark stepped in with their mass-produced cards and took Valentine's Day to the next level. By the 1980s, the amount of Valentine's Day cards one might receive became a status symbol. Isn't that so 80s? People leaned in hard and began giving cards and gifts to not just their lovers, but moms, dads, grandparents, kids, friends, teachers, even pets. We can bemoan that Valentine's Day is so commercial, but how about this notion? All this commercialization and market expansion throughout the years, in some ways, evolved the notion of love in popular culture, making it more inclusive. It has become a holiday about how you perform the idea of love. Anyone is fair game to receive a Valentine's Day gift. Be it candy, flowers, a card, or just Netflix and chill, the beauty of Valentine's Day is you choose exactly how you want to celebrate love for yourself and for the special people in your life. And we here at the local scene adore this contemporary Valentine's Day look. Spreading as much love as possible is never a bad thing. The Duxbury Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Steering Committee is doing necessary and valuable work in our community, and your thoughts and input are important. On Monday, February 26th, join Duxbury for All members Karen Wong and Tara Downs, Select Board member Fernando Gutart, Community Engagement Librarian Sam Correa, and Duxbury Public School DEI Director Caitlin Sheehan at the Duxbury Free Library for coffee and conversation about this important topic. The panel will take place in the Setter Room from 10 to 11:30 a.m. Decluttering the space around you is one way to find peace in your body, mind, and soul. On Tuesday, March 5th, professional organizer Julie Brooks will be at the Adams Center in Kingston to help you get started on reclaiming your home from those cluttered corners, rogue closets, and junk drawers gone bad. Offering practical tips, resources, and some laughs, Brooks will provide tools that help overcome the mental blocks that can prevent you from getting organized. You'll learn how to apply the simple sort, edit, rehome method as a step towards creating a welcoming and functionally organized living space. She will also offer suggestions on how to get the folks you live with on board with keeping a shared space free of clutter. The class happens from 6 to 7 p.m. Register through the Kingston Public Library website. Next up is poet Louise Vieira in a reading of her original work.
Please welcome, I think it's her first time here, is that right, Louise? Louise Vieira. Thank you.
Yeah. These are three poems about nostalgia, about going back, and there are three different voices. So the first one, my father's people were from the Azores, San Miguel. The first one is called saudade. Saudade is a Portuguese term. It's not definable, but it's longing, melancholia, and many languages have a word for this. Saudade. On feast days, my aunt carried the enamel pot like a sacred offering, a severed head, an echo from the mouths of caves, and gave to my father, an unholy man, the blood sausage, black with the terror of red. My father rarely spoke. Once he mumbled to the television, they should never dress those bears up and make them act. Another time, while gnawing overcooked steak, mothers chewed their baby's food. When he was 5, he returned to the island with my grandmother, where she bore her third child, my aunt, the green-eyed Adelina. He denied any memory, but always loved the sweetness of pineapples. The blood sausage was his. My mother cooked the food from her parents, lightly salty broths, delicate noodles drying on the wooden backs of brooms, and chickens hanging like coats from the cellar pipes. And so alone, my father warmed the horrid black coil, stuffed with rice bound by blood. He broke the bread, closed his eyes, tilted his head, taming the wild beast of slaughter, savoring the camaraderie and the sugary sunlight of pineapples. The saudade of food, the communion breakfast, the Seder plate, the Last Supper, the broken bread, the bloodied wine, and on the woven cloth of nostalgia, the far scent of island pineapples. The second one is in the same vein of remembering, and it's called By Hand, and it's for Eliana, my granddaughter. First, I remember the mud pies, my tin pail riveted with rust and flake, and the dented shovel, no longer red, to mix the batter, water, and sand. If you tunnel deep into the dirt, bands of orange clay, fine and buttery. My pies were exquisite discs, molded by hand, just enough water to make the dirt stick, to form and reform perfect patties. My hands were new then, my nails ridged with brown, scrubbed to a quick before Sunday. This was art in the first form, pure and primal, earth in hand. Now I have moved on. Needles and hooks, threads and yarn, linen, muslin, cotton, silk, burlap. The colors, oh, the colors, subtle and blatant, shouting and whispering, screaming limes and silent mauves, all by hand. Rugs, caps, blankets, flowered hankies and tiny looped pouches, worked with waxed linen thread for the first lost tooth. I believe our spirits exist through the tips of our fingers, a tapestry of expression, of myth and history, place and person and heart, only by hand. But for the mud pies, oh, the delicious, perfect mud pies, there would be no first stitch. My child, remember this story, and when my arms can no longer warm you, wrap this blanket about your shoulders, and I will be close. I will hold your hand. And then the last one is just a very short poem, and it's called Homesick. Send a pebble from the path. Do not wash the dirt from its cracks. I want to roll its grit in my finger's print. Send me the forest, send me the field. Send me a nest with tails of worsted. Send an ash leaf I can press to my cheek.
Naturalist John Muir said, "In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks." If you're a senior searching for a moment to receive the bounty Mother Nature has to offer, join Bill McDonald, former Appalachian Mountain Club and Boston area meetup organizer, on a midday hike he's leading on Wednesday, February 28th. The hike starts at the Round Pond Conservation Land on Mayflower Street in Duxbury at 11 a.m. and will be about an hour and a half. Don't trail behind in registering because spots are filling fast. To register, visit duxburyseniorcenter.org online or call 781-934-5774, extension 5703. Next up is a public service announcement from District Attorney Tim Cruz.
911, what's your emergency?
Hi, my name's Tim Cruz, and I'm the District Attorney here in Plymouth County. I've served as District Attorney since 2001. During that time, I've worked to protect and promote the public safety of the nearly 500,000 residents here. That includes prosecuting those who commit acts of domestic violence and getting justice and support for victims that are desperately in need. In Massachusetts, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. On a typical day, local domestic violence hotlines received approximately 19,000 calls, That's 13 calls every minute. Domestic violence and relationship violence impacts everyone. If you or someone you know is involved in a violent relationship, it's not your fault. There's help and there are services available. SafeLink is a confidential, statewide domestic violence hotline that can connect you or a loved one to local support. The SafeLink hotline is monitored 24/7, so call them anytime at 877-785-2020. That's 877-785-2020. Reach out. Break the cycle of domestic violence. Get help. You are not alone.
Abracadabra, appearing right before your very eyes on Saturday, February 24th at Memorial Hall in Plymouth is the Young and Strange Delusionist Tour, an internationally acclaimed magic act that conjures illustrious illusions and belly laughs. Richard Young and Sam Strange are a magic and comedy duo from Oxfordshire in the UK. Their magic is a spellbinding spectacle of pyrotechnics, high production value, and humor.
Young and Strange are one of the most exciting double acts in the world.
Where is the dog?
The dog's disappeared.
Just emphasise, it is a magic dog, not a trained dog.
Having headlined Champions of Magic, the largest worldwide touring magic show since 2013, Young and Strange's performances have made frowns disappear all over the world. They have also been seen on TV shows such as Penn and Teller, Fool Us, Caught on Camera with Nick Cannon, and Access Hollywood. The show starts at 7 p.m. and seats are priced at $29 and up. Go to memorialhall.com to purchase your tickets now before they disappear. We get better with age in many things, but research data shows that many people outlive their safe driving lives by 7 to 10 years. On February 21st at 11:30 a.m., the Registry of Motor Vehicles will be at the Pembroke Council on Aging for a Lunch and Learn Safe Driving Decision Workshop. The driving decision includes assessment, RMV policies, warning signs of unsafe driving, and best practices to use when talking with older drivers about their safety and the safety of others. This is an open discussion that will also focus on reporting procedures, information on disability plates, placards, and community transportation resources. Call 781-293-8220 to reserve your spot. Next up is Julie Thompson with a closer look at the town of Pembroke's master plan.
Welcome to the local scene. We're taking a closer look today at Pembroke's master plan, and I'm joined by Steve Ciciotti. And Steve is the vice chair of the select board as well as the vice chair of the master plan committee. Welcome.
Hi, Julie. Good to be with you.
Thank you for being here. We're going to dive right into what a master plan is. So before we talk about the components of it, can you define in one sentence what is a master plan and why do we need one in Pembroke?
I would say a master plan is a high-level document that establishes the path forward for the town across a number of different dimensions of consideration over the course of the next 10 to 15 years.
Okay, good. Great. And before we get to how we got to where we are right now, let's talk about the components that you have kind of whittled down as the final list of the components that are going to be in the master plan, starting with land use, which in every town, it's always an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So with land use, it's how does the town plan on using the land? You know, how are we going to have the land zoned? Mm-hmm. You know, how are we going to conserve or protect certain aspects of the land as well? So a lot of that may involve changes in zoning. A lot of town meeting is going to be a big part of that as well. You know, how do we leverage our land the best way possible for
right,
the town?
Because we only have a certain amount. We got to do what we're going to do with it.
Yep.
Housing is big everywhere, and housing is a big issue, not only in our town but in our region.
Yeah, absolutely. So with housing, a big part of housing is how do we serve the needs of the community? How do we serve the needs of people moving into the town? A big part of that is affordable housing, for example. Another aspect of it is how to manage 40B developments, friendly 40B versus maybe unfriendly 40B, and the inventory that is available for people.
Okay. Economic development, which is kind of giving the coffers some money.
Yeah, absolutely. So with economic development, this was a huge focus of the master plan especially. The one thing that was identified in the previous master plan 20 years ago was how there was already a low percentage of our tax base came from our commercial taxes. And since then, it's actually fallen even further. And that means that the tax burden is more on the residents and almost not at all on the commercial tax base. So not only do we want to be able to even that out a little bit more, but on top of that, we need to have more services, more commercial services available for residents of Pembroke, folks maybe driving through Pembroke as well, and more employment, more jobs too.
Absolutely. Historic and cultural resources.
So one thing that attracts a lot of people to Pembroke is its history. There's a lot of culture around the history of Pembroke, the architecture around a lot of the buildings in Pembroke as well, and there's a certain look and feel that we want to maintain, and there's a certain part of our history that we want to leverage that all ties into our culture in Pembroke as well.
Absolutely. Natural resources.
Natural resources was one thing that was certainly that drew me to the town of Pembroke, and that is identified very clearly in the surveys. Was something that a lot of people really love and want to protect about Pembroke. So you're talking, Silver Lake. You're talking its great ponds that we have as well. All the wildlife, all the greenery in Pembroke. A lot of people, escaped all the traffic and all the noise, and they're drawn to Pembroke for these reasons. We want to protect our environment. We want it to be sustainable, and we want to protect our wildlife and our greenery as well, and our open spaces.
And the trails and the meadows are just beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, we did that. Public facilities and services.
So with our public facilities and services, you're talking about emergency services like fire and police. You're talking about our schools as well. So we have issues with declining enrollment that we're struggling with. We need to find ways to tackle that. Vocational education as well is a big conversation in town. How do we identify the best path forward on that? As well as our general facilities, whether you're talking, town hall or some of the other buildings that we have. The DPW building that need better maintenance. Even our library, which is beloved in Pembroke, needs some more attention. So maintenance schedules, the services associated with them as well.
And we're lucky to have 2 brand new buildings that have been approved, obviously.
The community center, absolutely, and the public safety building, which is those were identified 20 years ago in the old master plan, and
it took that long.
It took
to get
that
them here.
Long. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the last thing is transportation and mobility.
Yeah, and for transportation and mobility, we talk a lot about the roads. A lot of people understandably talk about the roads. We need to do a better job maintaining our roads, and we're doing that, but we need to continue to do a better job. So you're talking about infrastructure such as the roads themselves, sidewalks, better mobility for people to ride on the sidewalks or just are on the side of the streets on bike riding, walking, etc. Make it more walkable. Things like that.
Okay, and there's not a lot of public transportation in Pembroke.
No, we have GATRA services, and that does help a little bit, and we could leverage GATRA more, and that's something that we did identify in the master plan as well.
Okay, so now that we know the components of the master plan, if you go on the website, and it has its own website, which is wonderful, the Pembroke master plan has its own website, it's a 204-page document, and it's loaded with a lot of great information. So for people who want to really drill down, they can go there to get more information. But you got to this point, you started about a year ago, and you got to this point by starting with a survey and with a company that you hired to help you. Just talk briefly about that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So we retain the services of VHB. They're all along the East Coast. They're very well established. They have been excellent as our consultants in the master plan. They've helped kind of help communicate best practices for some of these things. Their role is heavily around the kind of low-level heavy lifting of the data, as well as establishing kind of the framework of the master plan. And the master plan collaboration committee, who I'm the vice chair of, we are a big part of the high-level guidance to VHB in terms of how we want the master plan to look, gathering information, engaging the community to pull in a lot of those inputs and putting them in the master plan, looking at a lot of the old development plans, whether it's community development plan, open space and recreation plan, housing production plan, and tying those in as well. And they're taking all these inputs and they're putting them in the master plan, whether it's from community, whether it's from master plan, stakeholders, and from these old plans as well.
And make no mistake, this is for the town. So it's the townspeople's input that's really the most important.
Absolutely, and this is one thing why we changed the name. Originally, it was the Master Plan Steering Committee.
Yeah.
We changed the name pretty quickly to the Master Plan Collaboration Committee.
Right.
And it sounds a little bit like a mouthful, but we thought this was really good because our committee pulled in stakeholders from all the major boards and committees from the town. So we have 11 members, across different towns and boards. And we really wanted to communicate the fact that we're collaborating not between ourselves,
right,
but also with the town,
right,
and reaching out to people in the town and getting a lot of inputs. This isn't something that's happening where people are within their silos and putting their blinders on and things like that. We really want to get a lot of inputs across the board and filter those down, refine them, and turn it into this master plan document.
Of the surveys that were conducted, did you guys find anything surprising in the results of what people said or what they wanted?
Anything that was surprising? I mean, I would say, interestingly enough, there was very little, I think, that was surprising. I think that one thing that's nice about the members of the Master Plan Committee is they're all pretty tied in have their fingers on the pulse of their different,
groups, organizations,
subject matter experts.
Right.
And so I feel like we're a good representative group of that, but we still need more of that input from the town. So I think like when we got the survey results, the statistically significant survey results we got back, a lot of it was not surprising.
Yeah.
We knew exactly what the focus was, and it was nice to see that was reinforced by the town, along with extra granular data from people who kind of put those inputs in.
Yeah, so you kind of knew what you were going to see, but it just proved, we kind of know what we're going to have to do.
Absolutely.
And now we're on the way to do it. So now you have this 204-page document, and you have all kinds of things you want to get done. What's the next step?
The next step is we're kind of in the home stretch of the master plan. I mean, we really want, a part of why I'm here with you, Julie, is to do that extra layer of engagement with the town and to note that, hey, the master plan draft, which I would say is at least 90 or 95% complete, is up and available for people to see on www.pembrokemasterplan.com. They can go to the documents section. They can download and view the master plan. They can look at it, please criticize it, see if there's anything that it looks like that we missed. We want that extra input. And people can, of course, send those inputs through the website, which is nice.
I saw that. Very easy to do.
Absolutely. Yep. However, at the same time, we do have our final public forum. We did our first public forum in the fall of last year.
Yep.
We have our upcoming public forum coming up on February 29th. We decided that leap year would be symbolic in a way. So February 29th at 6:30 p.m. at the Pembroke Public Library. We would like people to attend that if possible, to give their extra inputs, to hear the presentation by VHB. The planning board will be there. We will be there. There'll be some workshops for the different sections as well. And we're exploring ways to make it hybrid also. So that way some people can kind of tune in through Zoom, for example, and watch and maybe even add a few inputs that way as well. But we'd really like to see people attend in one form or another.
Sure. And if they can go through the master plan between now and then and respond on the website, it would give you a lot of information to have for the night of the 29th.
Absolutely. Right. So yeah, the more that people, whether they want to put those inputs through the website or they want to kind of gather those up for themselves and then come to the actual public forum, which would be excellent, that much better.
Okay. So once that's done and you have the final tweaks, what happens next?
Then what will happen is we'll probably have another meeting or two, the Master Plan Collaboration Committee, and we tend to do those on a monthly cadence every 3 or 4 weeks or so. We're going to go through the inputs with VHB and refine those down some more, see what we can integrate in with the master plan. And once we're at the final stage of the master plan where we feel like, hey, we feel pretty good about this document, we're going to take it and we're going to present it to the planning board of Pembroke. So we serve at the behest of the planning board. The planning board is going to look through the master plan, maybe make some final edits or give it the big thumbs up, and then we'll accept it and then move forward. It becomes our official master plan.
Truth,
exactly.
It becomes the document. It becomes the it's your pathway.
It becomes
You've determined it.
Absolutely. And our hope is that, and one of the open questions we need to kind of establish within the next handful of meetings that we have is how do we implement the master plan? So it's not something that will be like law. It's going to be a guiding document that we want to see become part of the culture of our government, and that will tie in to the different boards and committees for their different sections to guide the way forward in order to productively enhance and leverage what we love about Pembroke.
And everything will have a kind of a timeline attached to it. So if you're talking about housing, and this is the plan you have for housing, let's just use that as an example. You can't, snap your fingers and housing is done. I mean, there will be time frames, there will be budgets, there'll be all kinds of components that go into each different component of the master plan, so that which is why you make it a 5 to 10 year plan, because you can't get it done in a year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It'll be the master plan is something that's expected to be the guiding document for the next 10 to 15 years.
Yep.
And the different sections identify a number of different actions and goals, and really this is where it's important. It's not something that's imposed on the town or imposed on the different boards and committees. It's the guiding document to say, hey, we had a conversation with the town. We had a conversation with the stakeholders and the subject matter experts on these different things.
Yeah.
How do we move forward in the most productive way towards the places that we all want to get to?
Right.
And whereas currently, and I think this probably happens in a lot of towns too, you have different boards and committees that are in their own silos. They maybe do what they want to do.
Yep.
They don't really know where they're going as much. They're kind of just going day to day. This will provide that path. So that way they know, hey, what's the next thing we can work on?
Right.
Maybe this. What's the next thing we can work on?
Yeah.
Maybe that. And if it becomes part of the culture, exactly.
Yeah.
And if it becomes part of the culture of the government, then instead of a document that goes up on a shelf somewhere, then we can really start to leverage what we love about Pembroke.
And you talked earlier before we went on air about the action tracker matrix, which I love that. You need to explain that, because there's so many things in a master plan. If everything had its own little line item, and talk about what would be on that master action tracker matrix.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is you hear like action tracker matrix and it sounds kind of scary, or like from a movie from the late 90s or something. And it's really not. That's right. It's something that is really, you go through each chapter, you go through each section, and there's a lot of information there. It's surprisingly readable, which is nice. It's very engaging. You can get a lot of the past, where we are, where we want to go, how do we want to get there, and then the goals and priorities. But it's a lot. If you want to get to really the meat and potatoes of the path forward, at a high level, you can go to the action tracker matrix. You can see those same goals and priorities, and you can see, okay, action 1. Here's a short description of the action.
Yep.
Is it a low, medium, or high cost?
Yep.
Who's the owner or the champion? Which board or committee or role, for example, should own this item going forward? What's the kind of time frame, long, medium, or short time frame? And does it require a zoning bylaw change? Everything is right there.
Right.
So you can kind of say, hey, how do we move forward with this? I see it's a goal and priority, but what do we do to move forward? And how do we manage our resources? It really helps with that. And Action Tracker is something I've been pushing for on the select board in the town of Pembroke for a while now. And I was very excited to see us kind of get it in the master plan as well, to really help refine and guide the way.
Right. Because anything that's this complicated and there's so many moving pieces, it's great to have one document to look at and be able to follow it along. And people, anytime you can make anything as simple as possible, the better understood it is. Now, the planning board has to okay this master plan.
Correct.
Who pays for it? Does town meeting have to pay for the different, or approve the payment of the different components of it, or how does that work?
So there's a couple things there that I would tease out. One is the actual development of the master plan. The Master Plan Collaboration Committee is all a group of volunteers from the different boards and committees. VHB was already paid through town meeting, and so they're paid for. In terms of the different actions and goals themselves, it depends on the action or the goal. So some of them will require some funding on the part of town meeting. Some of them will require a zoning or bylaw change that has to be approved by town meeting. Other things are more policies that can be done and managed by the town manager. Other aspects are more cultural. They're like, hey, we need to start thinking about this and kind of moving towards this as a community. So it really depends on what it is. There's a lot in this master plan that can be managed from a number of different perspectives.
And I would think grants would come into place in an awful lot of the components of this master plan.
Yeah,
when you look at them.
Absolutely.
There's grants for everything out
There's
there.
a number of action items that we have that specifically state to lean on different grants and even point the way to certain grants as well. So yeah, absolutely.
So now that you've done all this work, looking back, what is the best thing that has come out of this?
The best thing that has come out of this is, I mean, number one, we were due for a master plan for years now. This is supposed to last you for 10 to 15 years. Our last master plan was 20 years ago.
Right.
Really, the best thing that came out of this, I would say, is the collaboration and the interaction with the community to get everyone on the same page and create a document that says, hey, we all want pretty much the same thing. How do we get there? And so I would say, as a whole, the document represents that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. And now we just have to, find a way to leverage it the best way to make sure it's not forgotten about.
That's right.
And part of it is the engagement with the community.
Yeah.
Part of it is pulling them in, giving everybody an aspect of ownership, not just a town manager or a few people on a board, but also the town themselves.
Because it's their plan.
Absolutely.
Right.
It is the town's plan, and that's why we're the collaboration committee.
Right. Excellent. Well, so the 29th, we want everybody to show up at the library. Well, everybody's not going to fit in the library, so there's plenty of ways to participate on the 29th and to get in touch with the committee. And please do go to the website, because the website is just loaded with information, and it's great. Steve, thank you so much for being here. This has been wonderful.
Yeah.
This is Julie and Steve Ciciotti for the local scene.
Thank you.
And that, my friends, wraps what's good and good to know this week on the local scene. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. For more of what's good and good to know on the South Shore of Massachusetts, hit the subscribe button. And thank you for watching.